Hello, welcome to Data Pe Charcha show with Sumit. Truly excited today to have conversation with Dzifa Amexo. She is currently graduated in finance and data analytics and also did her internship in one of the Fortune 500 company where she learned about agile, data visualization and design thinking methodologies. Along with this, she also loves to create visualization that allows stories to be told through the data. Plus, she's also recognized by Tableau as a Tableau public ambassador. Yes, she also believes in giving back to community through various community programs. And she will share her tips and tricks with us on this show. So without further ado, let's welcome Dzifa Amexo. Hi Dzifa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Sweet. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you. I'm excited to be on the show.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. It's early Sunday morning, so no complaints.
Okay, let's get into the discussion. And at this point, I would like to know basically how you got introduced to this data visualization. What excites you about this data visualization?
Yeah, so it was quite the journey, I'd say. It all started as I've just recently graduated from Mercy College with my degree in finance and data analytics. I came in originally as a finance and marketing major. And after my first year, I was like, okay, I'm not very creative. I can't really do the marketing. Let me just drop that. And one of my professors had encouraged me to take this new course, this new specialization that we had in data analytics. That time I had never heard about it, I had no clue. But I figured I'd just drop my other major, so I must as well take on this new course. So my sophomore year, I took my first course in data analytics, where basically our professor was just like, here's this large Excel sheet, make this into a story. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't even know where to start. It was absolutely crazy. But I realized that I really enjoyed the process of really taking nothing, like taking this abstract concept or just this giant Excel sheet and turning it into something that's communicatable, that can be told into a story, that can really evoke change and action. So from there, I was like, okay, this is like my jam. This is my thing. I like it a lot. And my sophomore year, I ended up taking a class called Communicating with Data. So that was where I was first introduced to Tableau. And the minute I was able to make a bar graph and it just looked pretty, I was like, wow, like this is 10 times better than Excel. It's going to take me so long. I love it. It's beautiful. And so from there, I took the class. It was part hands-on, part taking tests, like prepare us for the certification. And so I'm a very hands-on learner. So I absolutely loved when we'd be in Tableau, like making things, learning about the software. But then when it came to like the testing part, I was okay, but it wasn't the best. It's actually really funny because the final project that we had a final project and the final exam. But I ended up spending so much time on the final project that like my written final exam wasn't the best that it could be. But after that, I was kind of like, okay, like I took the Tableau class, that's it. I'm kind of just like gonna put on my resume and call it a day. But then I ended up coming back to it in the summer of 2019. I was bored, so I started to pick up Tableau again. That's when I found out about Makeover Monday. I've shared that that's like well known now. It's an amazing community initiative. So I did 1 or 2 Makeover Mondays that were really bad. And then I kind of just put Tableau back again. I was like, okay, I'm not too good at this. I'm just gonna leave it over there. And then 2020, I came across a Viz Connect session with Maria Brock, and she was basically explaining how to make a Tableau resume. And I was like, okay, wait, this is really cool. So then I kind of did that and really immersed myself into the Tableau community. That was like my first jump. And then since then, like this past year has been absolutely insane, just in terms of the involvement, the support, the guidance that I've received from the community. I came in with like 2 followers. I didn't know how to make like a reference line. I literally didn't know anything. And just everyone in the community is so ready to support you, uplift you, give you advice, feedback. And that's really how I've been able to improve so fast. I think I'm definitely still a beginner by far. There's a lot that I don't know, but I think I've been able to take so much and give so much to the community, just because it's a really unique space where people just want to help you improve, which obviously identifies with me because I just love helping people. So I can give and I can also kind of get that circle of reciprocity. So it's been an amazing year. I was a featured author last year in I think June, and then I became a public ambassador. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is insane. And then I was a first round Iron Viz judge. I've spoken at the Tableau Fringe Festival and local tugs. So it's been a really amazing journey. Like I said, I still think I'm a beginner, but I firmly believe that you can be like a mentor and a mentee at the same time. So I think the more I'm able to teach others, give others feedback, but also receive that, it's just helping me grow. And here we are today.
Wow. Amazing. Looking at your journey, it's really inspiring, I would say. So while studying, you have actually got introduced to this thing, and now see the things are happening in this way. Really inspiring. At this point, I also wanted to request you to share your screen, and we can get into the another segment of our show, that is storytelling. So, what is your thought process behind building data visualization behind stories? So, if you can just share your screen, that will be awesome, and then maybe we can have discussion on those areas.
Okay, let me try sharing my screen.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. Okay, beautiful. So this is one of my businesses that I'm going to walk through. Hopefully it loads. It's lots of data. But so in terms of my process, it was really funny because before I had just recently this past semester, I was a part of the Millennials and Data Bootcamp cohort, which is absolutely amazing. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to that. Chantilly and Eric run that. And it's basically a semester long, so about like 16 weeks of basically learning how to read, understand, visualize, interpret data from like a data analyst perspective, but also a business perspective. And so every week we'd get a data set and then we get a brief. So we'd have basically questions and assumptions that we have to answer in a dashboard. But for our final week, we were kind of given a little bit of free reign. So we're given this data set on PPP loans, which in America, so there's the Small Business Association, and during the time of COVID, they had put together this program to give out loans to small businesses. So we were kind of given free reign on how to like go about this. And so for me, my process with this was first, I had to actually understand what the SBA, what the PPP was, just because there's a lot of acronyms, and even I'm from America, born and raised, but I was still very confused. So after I kind of got an understanding of the background of the data, like where it comes from, what the different categories were, like whether it was qualitative, quantitative, from there I had a lot of questions that I wanted to answer. So we were just given the prompt that create a dashboard that could provide an insight to the Small Business Administration. So from there I was like, okay, what questions do I first have looking at this data set? And so this was one of the largest data sets I personally ever looked at. So it's really interesting to just go through and craft those questions. So for me, it really came back to like, number one, like, what do I want to know? Like, what questions? Why am I making this dashboard? And so the first thing that came to mind, I was like, okay, the first question I want to answer is provide a overview. So to be able to, one, give an introduction to what this whole entire program is, and then give you a brief overview, but also the ability to kind of choose your own adventure. So I wanted this to give you an overview, and then from there, if anything piques your interest, be able to go in to a business level overview. So from here, if we just start here at the top, you can see that this is one of the things that I think really enhances storytelling. I like to add it in a lot of my business that may have a lot of context that I just don't want to include in it. I don't want to take up too much dashboard space, but it's vital information. So I included a little sheet that has information that basically just tells you a little bit a background about the PPP program and things like that. And then from there, I kind of just I have some KPIs up here at the top. And so one of the things that really stood out for me from this data set was that it was just not very clean. There was a lot of missing information in terms of the data collection that I would have loved to see. So I really wanted to call that out. And so I have my KPIs here. And then from there, I have these 3 sections. So I really wanted this, since there's a lot of data, I didn't want it to be too overwhelming. So I figured I'll have the first section be loan overview. So this is just the first thing. You see the breakdown, the lenders, and how that works. And then from there, logically, my next question was like, okay, where are all these jobs coming from? Yes, you have these loan approvals. How does that translate into like action? Where are they reporting jobs that are being kept? So then you have this section here, which is jobs reported. And then finally, I had mentioned how I wanted to include that choose your own adventure. So in here at the bottom, you can actually search by business name. And so here, one of the things that I had come across while I was exploring the data is that large companies like Domino's, which is in America, a huge pizza company, were getting these PPP loans. And so that was kind of confusing to me because this is supposed to be for small businesses. So having the users be able to have this interactivity, to be able to dive deeper into the story and really look up the different businesses that they wanted to look up, I thought was a really great addition to just make the story even better. And then from there, one thing that, so I said I knew I wanted to have the overview. And then the other part of the story, like I said, I wanted to have that choose your own adventure. So we had added in another dashboard, which takes a look at the Black businesses that were given loan approvals. So then I came here and I wanted to basically compare, okay, now we have an overview. Let's take a look at small Black businesses, just because in the United States, historically, there's been a lack of support and just like racial injustice and systemic inequities. So I wanted to look at the data and see what that story is presenting. So again, here I have my KPIs just to start them out, give them that overview of the first things that should capture their attention. And then from here, I just really dive deeper again into these 3 sections so it's not too overwhelming. One of the things that I think really helps enhance storytelling that I've learned throughout my time is just the power of tooltips. This is essentially what I had given my Fringe Festival talk on. But tooltips can really help enhance the storytelling, because here you see that I do take the time to just write them in full sentences. Like, it might not seem like it's a lot, but it's way easier to read that, like, okay, Chime Solutions was approved for a $5 to $10 million range and they reported 0 jobs. So that it's way easier to read in a sentence. And then you can catch that insight a lot faster. And then here, so my main thing that I wanted the reader to take away is that, okay, looking at the overview, but looking now at the Black businesses, there are some things that should stick out for me. So for one, that only 3 of the top lenders that we saw in the overview were top lenders to Black businesses. So obviously that is just showing that there's a disconnect between the people that they're allowing to make these loan approvals. They're not really reaching or approving Black businesses as many as they would for businesses of other races. And then I have the same drop down search feature where you can search for a Black business. And so for me, the main takeaway was that, okay, I see the overview for all loans. Looking at Black businesses, there needs to be more support there. There needs to be either a change in medium. So maybe we're going through big banks, we need to go through like electronic payments, or maybe we need to go through community banks that are in communities of color, so we can reach these demographics more. And so I think that really just wraps it up, and I was able to give both that overview, but also at the same time let the user explore their own story.
Yep, definitely. And the thing which I really liked from this entire dashboard is you have not used more than one or 2 colors, right? It's minimalism design is there, very, very aesthetic look. Yeah, and at the same time, again, it is very insightful. So, yep.
Thank you. Yeah, the power of color was definitely something that I had to learn. If I had gone back and shown you a viz from like early 2020, I'd use like 10 colors. It was like a Skittles bag. But I think using color strategically really helps you to draw out that insight. Like if you, one of the things that I'm trying to do is to when I do my dashboards, I usually have like a template and then I'll make the grid. But I've heard that it's really helpful to design first in grayscale. And then once you design first in grayscale, you can really figure out what is really important. What do you want to stick out, and then give color to that. Yep. Okay. And so now to move over to my other viz. So this is one of my favorite vizzes, not just because
even mine. This one is my favorite. Yeah.
Tableau said it's their favorite too. No, but this was a viz I did for Makeover Monday, the popular makeover challenge for visualizations. And so every month, Makeover Monday, I believe starting last year, they did this initiative called Viz 5. So basically, once a month, they would partner with Operation Fistula, which is a nonprofit, and we would basically just help them visualize their data. And so they were giving us this data set that looked at women's lack of access to modern contraceptives. And so anytime I get a Viz 5 data set, it's always, I feel like, a lot of pressure that maybe I just put on myself internally. But when you're dealing with data that is around like actual human lives, these are actual human data points, and girls who were like at a disadvantaged position, I feel like there's a lot of care that you have to take in terms of making sure you just don't recognize them as numbers. Like, these are individual people. So the first thing that I did, even before I started, I had no clue what this was gonna look like layout. The first thing I did was take a look at the data set and really understand the data dictionary. So with Viz 5, they'll always include what the different categories mean and just a definition of what the different things are, because there are a lot of, I guess, jargon that comes with this field. So I first understood that. And then after that, I went a little bit deeper into kind of understanding like what these women were going through. So I went to the Operation Fistula website, did like some research on what a fistula is, understanding that. And I really wanted to like empathize to know, like, as a woman, obviously, like, I live in America, so we have, well, for the most part, we have good access. I mean, that's kind of debatable, but compared to like a third world country, there is like more privilege there. But I wanted to really understand like what would that struggle like feel like. And so once I had like done enough research on that, I was like, okay, like this is a very serious like thing. Women want contraception, but they're not able to get that. Since I understood that, I was like, okay, I really want to be able to show each individual woman. And so this statistic here, it says 218 million women, which is 24% out of about 923 million women have an unmet need for modern contraception. So I saw this and I was like, okay, obviously I can't put out like 218, I like can't put out like that many dots, but I wanted this unit chart to provide some level of deaggregation so you can really understand. So one dot is equal to 1 million women. Like, okay, every woman has a story, has a name, and we can't see that, but I wanted that to be captured to bring a level of data humanization to this viz. So then from there, layout has always been something that I've struggled with just in terms of white space and making things flow. But I had actually, I had went out, and one of the things I mentioned I'd like to do is to go in Tableau and to pretty much create a grid of what I want to do and just put text boxes and things like that. So then from there, I have my info button here just for some added information and definitions of things. Over here on the right hand side, I have basically what Operation Fistula, their mission is, and why this is so important. And then you can see here, one of the things I think when it's important for data storytelling, when you're dealing with a data set that's around like a nonprofit or social good, there's obviously a lot of information you want to get across, but people, myself included, have very low attention spans. So one of the things here that I tried to do is to just, number one, space out these paragraphs, and then number two, bold certain words that I really wanted the reader to take away. So when you first look at this, you're like, okay, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, target 5.6 seeks to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health and reproductive rights. So that's like basically what this is all around. And then throughout the paragraph, I also bolded some other words that I really wanted to stand out. And then so from there, this is the main viz that I came to be. And so kind of just thinking back again to my process, like I didn't just jump into Tableau and was like, okay, this is it. I definitely go through probably a ton, just opening a ton of sheets, just experimenting, seeing how this looks. Is this showing what I want to show? I always ask myself, like, what is the main thing that I want someone to take away from this viz? And so for this, you can see here that I turned off all the labels except for Trinidad and Tobago and China. So you can see that China has the lowest unmet need. And so I tried to put the text in the same color that I put here so you can immediately make that same connection. Again, you're seeing the tooltips that are in full sentences, just helps with that quicker comprehension. Then we see here Trinidad and Tobago has the highest unmet need. So after that, I was like, okay, I still had more questions. I think one of the things that makes you a good storyteller is that you're always just naturally curious. Like you just always question, don't expect the unexpected, like always just keep asking questions. So from there, I did more research. I was like, okay, why does China have such a low unmet need? Like what is China doing differently than Trinidad and Tobago? And so I found that China had implemented the one-child policy. And so women were actually required to use contraception. So that means that there was more like available. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then again, on the other hand, I wanted to look at Trinidad and Tobago, look at how did they have such a high unmet need? And then I came to that conclusion just in terms of looking specifically at a further breakdown of the unmet need. So I think why this one, or I don't know why one visited it. Obviously it's beautiful, but I think the way in which I told the story, you start with all the women, okay, we have that, and then we go into a description, and then you see country by country level. I split it up so it'd be easier to just see like which regions are ahead of other regions, and then again you come back to like, okay, that's cool, but what does that mean? Like, why is this happening? And then of course there's a donate button prompting you to an action. And I think again, like one of the things that really helped me really do this viz is really empathizing with like the end user, really understanding what's going on. Obviously I'm so lucky to not have this to be privileged to live in America and have certain opportunities, but to really think like, okay, how can I connect to this nonprofit, to this organization, to this cause. And then just really, again, I was thinking, so for this, my audience, that's also a really important question that I asked myself. For millennials and data, the audience was like the SBA. But for this, I was like, the audience would be donors or just like the average person. And so I'm thinking about me, like the average 21-year-old, like I wouldn't know what Operation Fistula is. I wouldn't know what Unmet Needs are. That's why I found it really important to define these terms for people who don't know. And so that is this phase. It's one of the ones I'm really proud of. It compared to other visits, it actually like didn't take me that long, which is really funny. But definitely like a product was just browsing through like Pinterest and Behance and just seeing things and then putting it all together.
Correct. So again, in terms of story, yes, definitely we can see the story in this entire visualization, and plus the call to action button, that donate button is there. So if I have to correlate this with some news journalism kind of a thing, there is a term called as inverted pyramid. Okay, so what it means is basically you start with first talking about the very high level or the newsworthy thing. So on top we have that unit chart, right? That is first section, and then you further drill down into the another section where you are again looking into the different regions, and then again further you are doing the drill down. So this is a kind of a top down drill approach, kind of an inverted pyramid. So this one is my favorite approach and really loved it. And plus you have also added that the important thing is now you have considered that, okay, so the one who is going to watch this which or interact with this will be an average person who don't know anything about the data. Let's consider who don't know anything about the data. From their perspective, what is that they should know? So thinking from their point of view is really important, and even it is applicable in business as well, right? Like what is our understanding versus what is business understanding is really important, and that's something you have justified it here. So amazing.
Yes. Thank you. Exactly. And that's one of the things that I think, again, goes back to like empathy. Like even if you're not doing like a social good viz, like if you're doing a business dashboard, like be empathetic, like get to know who your customers are, really understand what they want. I think that my first internship at Johnson & Johnson, like learning lean agile design thinking, that really kind of trained me to think like always put your customer first and get to know what they really want, like ask those questions. So I think that's kind of where that mindset comes from, but it definitely is very helpful, I feel like, in storytelling.
Yep, I have to agree. I also had background with J&J, so yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. We also have another viz.
So the other viz I can show is my Tableau resume. This will load. So I actually did this almost about a year ago, which is really funny because now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I would do so many things differently. But essentially this, like I had mentioned, came from the Viz Connect with Maria Brock. I definitely recommend everyone go and watch that. She's absolutely amazing. She was a student ambassador last year, kind of before like I entered the Tableau community scene. But she also has the Tableau student guide, which is an amazing resource. But essentially she basically showed us how to create a Tableau resume. And so I haven't actually, the funny thing is I've never actually used this to like apply for a job, but I think it could be used if you're applying to a Tableau job to show like, okay, like I have these skills. This is me like putting those skills into action. So for this Tableau resume, this actually all started out with a sketch. So in my notebook, I had, actually have my notebook here, but I had sketched out basically like a little circle where I knew I wanted to have a timeline of what I was doing. And then I knew since I was a student, I was like, okay, I have school, I have internships, and then I have my extracurriculars like I do for fun club involvement. So when I was making the timeline here, I was like, okay, I'm going to give different colors to where I'm talking about like leadership versus school versus work. And so here you can see that timeline. And then I just include a little description about what that was. So then from there, I was like, okay, I knew I wanted to somehow showcase my skills, but I didn't really want to do like a skills bar chart, so because personally, like, I didn't really know what to do with that. So one of the things I decided to do was to go to my LinkedIn and see what the top endorsements was. So what would people say about me if I wasn't in the room? So these are my top skills: leadership, communication, social media, teamwork, and public speaking. So then from there, I
Okay.
had pulled in different icons to just put that at the end of the bar chart. And so now, like I said, looking back at this, I do a couple of things differently. One of the things I would do is probably left align this text so that it's like easier to read. And I'd probably get rid of these icons. And yeah. And then the next section that I did was a likes and dislikes. So here on the right, I have, these are just like arbitrary numbers, but love karaoke. It's one of my passions. Data viz, traveling, which I haven't done since I went to Korea now 2 years ago. Reality TV, and then dislikes on the left: scary movies, not learning, and peanut butter. And then over here in this last section, I provided some tools that I know how to use, I'm proficient in. And then on the bottom here, this was actually my favorite part. I decided to do these little light bulbs of different conferences that I've been to. So I basically just wanted to show that, like, okay, I'm very involved and passionate about personal development, personal and professional development. So these are different conferences that I've been to. Like I said, I did this almost a year ago. So there's a lot that I do differently. I think I would keep, here I have what's my story, and then I have who I am. I think I would definitely change the who I am section. I would add something that really talks to like my concrete skills. Like, I think just having these pictures here doesn't really tell you like how I can use Microsoft Word or how I can use Tableau. So maybe I'd include like a presentations or a public speaking section, because I've done a few events like that.
Yeah.
And then maybe actually, I do like this timeline, but maybe do like a waterfall chart or something where it's easier to see the different time periods. And then of course here I have my links to my LinkedIn, Twitter,
Twitter,
and
Tableau.
Tableau public profile. So I think I keep that the same. But yeah, this was one of my first, not one of my first, but one of my first entries into I think the data fan community. I like posted this on Twitter, and then like that's how like I guess I got discovered. Like I was on American Idol or something. It was like,
Yep.
wow, this is great. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, it's great. And again, I have seen. Uh, so again, thanks to Tableau community, I have seen many interactive resumes which are coming maybe from 2020, right? If I'm not wrong. And again, all of them are amazing. The unique thing which I liked from this one is the endorsement part, right? The top LinkedIn endorsement. So that's quite unique, which I have not seen. Maybe if tomorrow, if I have to build any resume for myself, I will definitely steal this idea.
Yes, please do.
Cool, cool. Cool. And again, thank you so much for sharing all three examples with us. They were really insightful. They were really insightful. So now let's get into the another segment of our show. And at this point, I would like to ask you a question. Now, you have already completed your graduation, recently completed your graduation, right? Now, consider someone who is very new to this field, who don't know anything about the data visualization or BI industry, and if he wants to explore this, what are the tips which you would like to give to them?
Yeah, so I feel like I could write a whole book, even though I was talking about like I've only used Tableau for about 2 years. Like I could write a book. There's so much. I'm definitely learning every single day. I haven't yet started my career, so this is like pre-career advice. Just in terms of like starting in the data visualization community or things like that. Think first and foremost, probably heard it 1,000 times, but really just publish your work. I think it's very hard to like improve if people don't see your work, if they can't really provide you feedback. So one, publish your work and be open to feedback. For me, that was something that I definitely struggled with in the beginning, or just like as a person, like feedback, sometimes it hurts, like sometimes it's constructive, which is good, but it hurts. But at the end of the day, like feedback is so good for you. It's honestly a gift. And I've definitely changed my mindset to be that like, I now like I want feedback. Like I'm like, give me more feedback, give me as much feedback as I can, because I know the more eyes you get on it, the more perspectives you get, and that just works to improve your end product. And now like I've transformed that into like my life, like all aspects of my life. I'm like, whether it be Tableau or just my personal life, I'm like, give me feedback. Like I want the feedback so I can iterate and just make it better. And I'm so grateful for all those who have provided me with feedback. So that's number one. Publish your work. Don't be afraid to like publish it, because everyone starts from somewhere. Like, we're all on our own journey. Number two would be get involved in the community. So I actually came across this viz by Sam Parsons, if I could share really quickly.
Okay.
And he basically took a look at all the community projects that are going on. I think this is just a phenomenal research, because there's a lot going on in the Tableau data fan community. And a lot of it does happen on Twitter, but there's also some on LinkedIn. But this is just a really great way, I think, to first like identify like why, like what's your why, what's your purpose, like why do you want to learn data visualization? Is it like for a hobby? For me, that was like, okay, yes, this is a hobby. But now I'm like, okay, as I start my career later this year, I'm gonna take it more into like career wise. So figure out like what challenge like speaks to you and really dive head deep into that. There's so many ones: storytelling with data, if you're really into storytelling, as well as Viz for Social Good, Makeover Monday. Project, all of these really are really good for storytelling, as well as Iron Quest. That's a good precursor if you're interested in doing Iron Viz. I do want to spotlight diversity in data. That's a new initiative by Eve and Autumn. I'm calling these people as if I know them like very well, but we're like Twitter friends. But it's a really great initiative, I think, just to shine light on like topics in diversity and bring light to that. But I'd say just really get involved in the community, do these community projects. Learning data visualization is like learning anything. Like, you have to really build your muscles, just keep trying and practicing, and that's really just how you learn. And then lastly, the last thing that I think has really helped me is to really just surround yourself and immerse yourself in whatever you want to learn. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm really interested in data visualization. So all throughout 2020, COVID-19, like once I came home and everything was online, definitely like missed that in-person interaction so much. But it definitely opened it up to a bunch more opportunities. Like, I can now go to Tableau user groups. I could go to the Tableau conference, things that I probably wouldn't have been able to do if it was in person. So I think immerse yourself in the community, whatever that means. Like, attend virtual conferences, attend videos, just follow people, just get to know. And really just surround yourself with also, I think, creative things. So I'm a big fan of like Pinterest, Behance, Dribble, even just like Google Images. When I'm doing a dashboard, let's say I'm doing a dashboard on like supply chain, I'll be like, okay, like supply chain dashboard, or like, let's say like charity dashboard infographic, and I'll draw inspiration from that. And now I've really I've just been so interested in that, like even on Instagram, on Twitter, even now, like when I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh, like this is a really nice font. Like, I wonder what font this is. And so the more, I guess, and it's definitely because I'm passionate about it, but I think the more you like submerse yourself and learn and look at more data viz, and you're like, okay, like this is really good storytelling, this is not really good storytelling. So just really try to expose yourself to the best of your ability to everything that is around you. And then also with that, just like don't be too overwhelmed. There's definitely a lot going on. Sometimes it can be like a little overwhelming, but just like go in your lane, know that it's not a competition. Like, we're all here to improve our skills, and people want to help and support you.
Cool. All the tips and tricks, definitely they are going to help anyone who is going to watch this entire show. And I think all the tips were insightful. With this, I would like to conclude this session, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing those stories. Definitely they were insightful, and definitely there are so many things which we can learn from your work as well. And yep, thank you so much. Looking forward to see and learn more things from you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Awesome.